Hi, it's Colin Coward. I started The Volume to bring you some of the most authentic voices in sports. While you're here, make sure you hit subscribe. Thanks.
I had a lot of money on the Chiefs. I had them parlayed with the Niners, plus 3.5. God, oh my God, how did the Chiefs lose? But let's just start with this. I'm gonna start with the winners of the day, the people today that were just like, had massive days. The Los Angeles Rams franchise won the day. They traded multiple first-round picks and got rid of Jared Goff to get Matt Stafford. It was a polarizing move because every, media member thinks that all these first-round picks are so valuable, and they freaked out, and everyone was like, this is crazy. Listen, Matt Stafford's value, the moment he asked for a trade, the two coaches that really wanted him were Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan. Like that was a fact. He was going to go to one of those two teams. And he ends up with the Rams. They don't have a pick, for like 10 straight years. Who cares? It was literally validated the moment the clock hit 0 and they won the game 20-17. Here's the other thing, and I'm someone that, critical, whatever. I just watched Matt Stafford, and he made me nervous as someone who was like trying to take them seriously as a Super Bowl champion, a Super Bowl contender, a team that was going to win the NFC. The way he played the second half of the season reminded me of like the Lions guy, turning the ball over, fumbling the ball, being reckless with the football. The Matt Stafford that we have seen in the playoffs, he's been magnificent. He has dominated. He's looked like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He's looked like a $40 million a year player. Sean McVay saw it in him, risked, their future, which they clearly don't care about, and it all worked out. And they treated their team, once they got him, like there was a lot of urgency. They go out and make a crazy trade, which I thought was nuts, trading a second and a third round pick for Von Miller, who's going to be a free agent. It worked out. Adding Odell Beckham, then I'm like, I don't know if I would add Odell Beckham. That's pretty risky. And then it turns out the moment they sign him, Robert Woods tears his ACL in practice, which doesn't happen that often in the NFL, especially late in the season because practices aren't that hard. Odell Beckham in the playoffs looks like Odell Beckham from the New York Giants, the guy that was playing with Eli and Tom Coughlin. He had 9 catches today. He was awesome. Odell Beckham was fantastic. And just the whole vibe of their team. They were all in on this season. They hosted the NFC Championship game. They're going to the Super Bowl, which is literally in their place. And I just saw that StubHub before their game, the get-in price or the medium price was $12,000. The moment the Rams won that game, it went to $19,000. This is going to be the most expensive Super Bowl in the history of Super Bowls, and it might not be top for the foreseeable future. Now, it's a little weird because they're playing the Bengals, but the Rams franchise, the Rams team-building motto of not giving a flying you-know-what about these draft picks, it worked. I'd argue that it worked just getting to this game, but now it's not arguable. Obviously, they want to win the Super Bowl, but they got to the Super Bowl. Any team in the league would trade pick 31 or 32 in the following year's first-round pick to go to a Super Bowl without hesitation. Every single team in the NFL, if I said, you can trade pick 31 and the following year's first-round pick to go to the Super Bowl, they'd be like, do you want me to email you the draft picks? Do you want me to put them in a car and drive them to you? Do you want me to FedEx them? Do you want me to have Amazon drop them off? How do you want me to deliver those first-round picks to you? And let's face it, they're going to be, I haven't even seen the line yet. They're favored in this game against the Bengals, surely. And, early thoughts is the Rams are going to win Super Bowl. Matt Stafford's going to be a Super Bowl champ. Now, the one thing I've learned, and I got pretty cocky. Now, I might have had a few cocktails. I was tweeting a little bit Saturday night. Again, a few cocktails, so I get a little cocky. And I said the Chiefs have no chance to lose this game. Now, we'll get into the Chiefs and the 49ers here in a second. But what Joe Burrow, and it wasn't all Joe Burrow. Their defense was awesome. They just kind of have this character to the team. And I believe that starts with him, of like they're never really out of the game. Their receivers have been just badasses all season. We know how good Jamar Chase has been. I didn't think T. Higgins as a player at Clemson, I didn't think he was as good. I was wrong. Now, I be honest, I probably watched 3 or 4 Clemson games, like his last 2 years there. I just thought he was like a taller, stiffer guy. Again, my scouting days are behind me. I'm not super locked in on every single player, but that guy's really good. I'm blown away by how good. I knew how good Joe Mixon is because I'm a big Oklahoma guy. That offense is dangerous. But that quarterback, in a 3-year span, he made Ed Ogeron a national championship head coach and the head coach of arguably one of the greatest teams to ever play in college football. Ed Ogeron will have the distinction of being the head coach of that football team. He's a national champion. Ed Ogeron will never be a head coach in the Power 5 football again. No chance. 0. And I think we saw these last couple years it was Burrow. And then he goes to the Bengals, who I think a lot of people shit on the Bengals. We put them with the Browns and the Lions and the Raiders. The Bengals went to the playoffs a lot the last 15 years. The Carson Palmer teams, and then they transitioned with the Andy Dalton, all those teams when Whitworth was still there. They were going to the playoffs. They won the division several times. They just never won in the playoffs. And coming into this season, I remember, or not in this season, in this postseason, the stat that was flying around, I think I just heard it on Sirius XM, some radio channel, that the Bengals had never won a road playoff game. Not in the last couple decades. In the history of their franchise, they hadn't won a playoff game since 1991. I love they throw out, since text messages were invented. I was in the text message generation. Text message for most people came around, it feels like, in 2000, 2001, 2002. That's when we started using them. I have a famous story that when text messages really got popular, or you were able to use it on your phone, they used to charge you per text message. And so, my first, girlfriend in high school, probably a junior in high school, we were texting all the time. And I worked for my dad on the ranch in the summer. And obviously, I'm in high school. They pay for my phone bill. My phone bill's, $50, $60. And I remember I had to, grade a field, so I was in a tractor. And I can see his truck coming from a long way away. And I swear to God, he was going 90 miles an hour. And he doesn't pull up, I'm in the middle of the field, and it has, it has rows. So as a truck, to go, straight over it, you would, bounce. You wouldn't go to the middle of the field. You would go to one of the corners. He came to the middle of the field like he was Dale Earnhardt in this Ford F-150, hitting, 10 feet in the air, and his hand was out the window. His hand was out the window with a piece of paper in his hand. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And he kind of waves me down. I stop. He gets out of the truck. He's screaming. It's the phone bill. And the phone bill back again when I was in high school. I love it. The text message. I'd never heard of a text message until 2001. My phone bill was $700. Maybe it was. I think it was $610 or something. In 2001, I've never seen him so mad in his life. And I was like, Dad, I'm just trying to hang out here. He'll relax. I'll pay you back. Never did, but he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy. So they get, they didn't just get their first playoff win since text messages were invented, but to win multiple road playoff games, but to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. So Joe Burrow took the Cincinnati Bengals, and Ed Ogeron. He put one in the Super Bowl, and the other he made a national champion. And let's face it, you have to take the Bengals and say they have a chance to win the Super Bowl. I'm going to pick the Rams, but you would say the Bengals have a chance to win this Super Bowl. And it starts with that guy. Some players transcend organizations, transcend culture. That word gets used a lot. Great players set the culture. The Warriors had no culture. Steph Curry showed up. The Patriots were in shambles. Tom Brady became the starting quarterback. This isn't that complicated. A great player, for as much as a head coach can do, in this modern-day sports, your best player has to be your culture setter. The reason the San Antonio Spurs became the San Antonio Spurs? 2 words. Tim Duncan. The Indianapolis Colts were a joke. Then Peyton Manning showed up. This isn't that hard to figure out. Joe Burrow is a transcendent player. But he clearly is a transcendent person. And he's just, the Bengals, they believe, they've always had talent, right? On some of those Andy Dalton teams, they were really, really talented. A.J. Green, Eifert, Giovanni. They had really good offensive skill guys. Their defense was always loaded and physical. Pac-Man flying around. Vontaze. Their D-line was always huge. But obviously Andy Dalton was just kind of a guy. And even, in his peak, he was like, middle-of-the-road quarterback. This guy, by year 2, like, I don't think it's hyperbolic to say, is like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He outplayed Patrick Mahomes today in the second half. Ran circles around him, which to me was the most glaring part of the day. Like, when I look at the 2 teams that lost, the Chiefs and the 49ers, at the end of the day, Kyle Shanahan's starting quarterback coming into the season was a guy who was in such question mark the team 3 months before traded pick 12 and 2 first-round picks on top of that to get a quarterback who had started 1 year at North Dakota State. Jimmy Garoppolo gave them such positive organization that they traded the farm for Trey Lance. The Kansas City Chiefs, and part of this is, you see it a lot with Seattle. Let Russ cook, let Russ cook. That's a big thing with the fans and the media. And I get that. Like, when you have a great player, you got to let them be them, especially in basketball and football. There's a artistic element to the sport, right? There's an artistic element to what Joe Burrow does, to what, Odell Beckham, just great players, great skill players. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, great players, you got to let them cook. But sometimes, and Coach Reed clearly has been great for Patrick Mahomes because they have a structure of an offense, but he lets them cook. Right? He lets them become like Emeril Lagasse. But every once in a while, you become John Middlekauff, who can't cook worth a damn, and you burn down the kitchen. Because Patrick Mahomes today was horrendous in the second half. And at the last play of the first half, when they have 5 seconds left, no timeouts, I don't know who to blame. Right? Personally, I would not have had, and listen, I can't pretend to know a quarter to know 100th of as much football as Coach Reed. But I don't know why you would have a security blanket behind the goal line. Because if Patrick does, who just, like we said, cook sometimes, even if you tell him, do not throw that ball, when you give him the option, especially when it's Tyreek Hill, he might throw the ball. He did throw the ball, and the guy got tackled. And they ran out of time. And it was 21-10. And as someone that had, again, several $1,000s on the Chiefs covering that 7 points, I was like, I don't love that. Because just make it 24-10 at halftime, you're good. But to me, you got to run plays that are just quick hitting in the end zone. So if they don't work, boom, it's done. Zero chance anyone get tackled behind the goal line, meaning that you go to half. But for Patrick Mahomes, who's one of the best players in a 4-year span we've ever seen to throw that ball, makes no sense. The play, the decision, the whole thing, everyone's at fault. That's bad. And they know that. But then to me in the second half, I don't know, Mahomes was doing these 360s in the pocket like it's, this is October and you're playing the Bengals. Like, Patrick, this is the AFC Championship game. And he's been in this game now this 4th straight year. And to me, there's a balance between you want your guy to be calm. You want your guy to be cool under pressure. Whether you're a quarterback, whether you're a pitcher, whether you're a golfer, you got to stay cool under pressure, right? You got to just, you can't be too amped up. Because if you're too amped up, you'll make bad decisions. But you also can't be too relaxed, And I thought Mahomes was just, he looked like he was in a malaise. He looked he looked terrible. He looked horrendous. Now, great players have awful games. Michael Jordan had bad games. Tiger Woods had bad 18 holes. Brady's had bad games. You go any great, Magic Johnson, you go through the list. They've all had them. Every single one. Every single one. It just is a little glaring how well he was playing. I thought he had been, and maybe Josh Allen too, the best player in football the last 5, 6, 7 games. And think how good Mahomes was the first 2 weeks of the playoffs. 42 points, 42 points. In that game against Josh Allen, we all admit Josh was awesome. Mahomes was equally as good. Brilliant. And then in the first half of this game, it's like, God, Patrick is locked and loaded. Mahomes is dominating. And then that play happens, and then the rest is history. And he's just terrible. He's just god-awful. Maybe you just chalk it up. It just happens. It was a little out of character. Came out of nowhere for me. It was shocking to watch. It really was. Stunning to watch. Insane. I'm just honestly at a little loss for words. I cannot believe the Kansas City Chiefs didn't win that game. I mean, I can because we watched it. I'm just saying, like, coming into the game, I text someone mid-game, like, God, I should have put $5,000 on this game. Should have put $10,000 on this game. The Chiefs going to win 50-7? Is this thing's a... I should have put 50. I should have put an unlimited amount of money on this game. This -7 is the biggest lock of the season. And then these Bengals, this Joe Burrow, it's crazy. I don't know, man. You know, Coach Reed, it's a devastating loss for the Chiefs. It really is. But like I said, sometimes when your thing is to let them cook, and that is the way with Patrick Mahomes, because most of the time he's cooking a gourmet meal. Sometimes he burns the house down. And today he burned the house down. And there's no, you can't just flip the switch and be like, Patrick, play under control now. Like, no, it's too late. Like, this is him. This is part of the deal. He's a better version, I think, of like the Favre. Part of Favre was like, it can get ugly fast too. But thing with Mahomes, it never really gets that ugly. That was the first time you're like, what is going on? And, sometimes if you want to be critical of Andy, just keep hammering the run. Just hammer the run. That'll calm him down. It's like if you're missing 3-point shots, get to the basket. And that would be the thing. But ultimately, like, Patrick Mahomes has been the best thing that's ever happened to the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not even debatable. The most important player in the history of the franchise, however many years, is Patrick Mahomes. I don't even think there's a close second. But today, he, part of his greatness went the other way. And it looked like a guy like an undrafted free agent out there. He was just like freaking out. But he was like chill. It was weird. I still don't quite know how to describe what I witnessed. I do know how to describe what I witnessed with Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo has been the same guy now for years. He hasn't gotten any better. And when you don't get any better in the NFL, you kind of get worse. Now, Jimmy has a lot of good characteristics, and I heard Colin go on this rant a couple days ago, and I completely agree. There is something with Jimmy Garoppolo that you cannot quantify. You cannot quantify. But no one acts like he's a top 10 quarterback. So when people argue over, everyone acknowledges he's a middle-of-the-road guy. But he has unquantifiable, intangible stuff that he brings to the table that you feel good in these big moments, that he can win you a big game or can make a big play for you. And he did today. But he can also make devastating plays. Guess what? He throws interceptions against every team he plays. Whether he's playing the 85 Bears or whether he's playing the 2022 Jags. He looks similar, right? There's a reason they traded all these picks. Jimmy Garoppolo's last game with the 49ers was going to be this week or it was going to be in 2 weeks. Even if he won the Super Bowl, Jimmy Garoppolo would not have been on the 49ers. Now, I don't know what his value is. We will have time to factor that in, like in terms of what pick value. They will be able to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Look at the quarterbacks around the NFL. But that was Jimmy Garoppolo's last game for the 49ers. Again, I feel like, of course it was. They traded 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. And the reason they did that is because they wanted special. Now, is Trey Lance going to be special? I got no clue. I actually, in the 2 games that he started, got more concerns than I do. I have excitement too, but he's a major project. He is a major, major project. That if he starts all the games next year, there's no guarantee they're just an 11 or 12 win team. And they're better than this version of Jimmy Garoppolo. Because he has so much to learn. I mean, just playing good team. It's going to be hard. He has a lot to improve on. But the moment that trade happened, it was bye-bye Jimmy. Whether he started all the games this year, whether he got supplanted by Trey Lance in the midseason, but it was over. We knew that. Like, that was a fact. Before a game got played this season, Jimmy Garoppolo's time was over. Now, as someone who's watched every single snap of Jimmy Garoppolo's career as a 49er, and actually probably I've watched it twice because I always watch their games back, he has grown on me. I respect the person. But as a player, I don't like weak arm quarterbacks. That's not really my thing. Jimmy's arm's solid. He has a quick release, but he can't push the ball down the field. And you saw today, like, the difference is Matt Stafford can explode the ball down the field. The 49ers don't play like that. Now, part of it is Kyle Shanahan wants to run the ball. It's like the ethos of how he coaches. It's also why his teams are always tough. There's a huge element of toughness with the team that I think is associated with running the ball. But in 2022 and moving forward, and this is where I give him credit for pulling the trigger on the Trey Lance trade, you got to be able to throw some bombs. You have to be able to do it. 3 teams today can't. Joe Burrow can. Joe Burrow's squad, Patrick Mahomes' squad, and Matt Stafford. And then you had the 49ers. And you saw today, like, to me, the last play of the game, or when he throws the pick, like, I don't know, man. It's 3rd and whatever. He freaks out. The play was way worse than the pick 6 that he almost threw to Jalen Ramsey. Like, do not throw the ball when you're running around. Because, like, oh, that kind of looks like Tony Romo. Yeah, until he throws it, and then he throws it right to the other team. Now, obviously, Tony throws picks too, or did when he was playing. But Jimmy is just, he's a roller coaster ride. And part of having a roller coaster ride is you don't always know when the sweet parts are and when the scary parts are going to be. And when you throw picks at inopportune times in the second half, and there's some element of luck to it, right? Kwaski Tart dropped a pick from Matt Stafford. These games, like, there is no perfect in these games. Tom Brady's won Super Bowls where he throws picks. So has Peyton Manning. Guys have lost Super Bowls with picks. It's just, this game's hard. But when you throw picks in the second half or turn the ball over in the second half, it's hard to overcome that. And Jimmy Garoppolo, the thing that he does not allow Kyle Shanahan to have is the ability to be confident in the passing game. Kyle Shanahan will call pass plays on like quick wide receiver screens when they're forced to, when they're down. But when they're leading, he doesn't have the whole playbook at his disposal. You know, and I was critical of Sean McVay. I thought he could get kind of pass happy with Matt Stafford. But ultimately, he was going to go down swinging with that guy's arm. And Matt Stafford learned, and they figured it out through the year, got the reps of the big game reps, because he doesn't have that many big games with the Lions. And he's been, you know, beside the Kwaski pass today that he dropped, Stafford was awesome. Like, they had a dramatic advantage at quarterback. And there, you know, we can nitpick. You know, part of Sean McVay, like, he was blowing these challenges. I got news for you. No one gives a shit when you win. No one cares. Absolutely no one cares. I remember, like, growing up, sports talk radio talking about baseball. It's like, what about in the 3rd inning when he didn't, you know, pitch hit for the guy? Well, they won the game. Like, what are we talking about? We won the game. In the playoffs, like, you moved on. What do they say in March Madness? Survive in advance? Because, you know, Kyle Shanahan's going to get crushed where I live for some of his play calling. And rightfully so. That's part of the gig. When you call plays that do not work when you're the offensive coordinator, especially when you're, you know, labeled one of the better offensive coordinators in the league, it's bad. He called multiple plays today in big spots. Like, he went back to this Trent Williams well. It's like, Kyle, you've ran that. It's not a trick play anymore. Sean McVay ran a trick play today that I don't think I've ever seen. It was a flea flicker tight end screen. Part of doing something that no one knows coming is a curveball. You catch him off guard. When you bring Trent Williams in motion, like we saw that last week, you ran it twice. They've prepared for that. We're talking, you know, this is a chess match. You can take advantage of people when they don't know that's coming. That you know, the Packers were like, what the hell's going on? But by the second time, it didn't work. And by the third time, I bet the Rams felt pretty confident when they saw him moving, like somewhat what was going to happen. I knew. You're going to run it either, you know, off tackle left or off tackle right. You're either going to run a counter off it or you're just going to follow Trent again. Those were really your only 2 good options on the play. So, you know, Sean McVay, despite, you know, blowing the challenges, he's going to a 2nd Super Bowl in 4 years. And he denied Kyle the opportunity to go to his 2nd Super Bowl in 3 years. And I put it out on Instagram. You know, we'll talk about it with Brady. But, I mean, those now with all these retirements, Brady, Sean Payton, Pete Carroll getting older, like those guys are elite coaches. But they still have, you know, some of the clock management by Kyle at the end of the game. Obviously, McVay's just reckless nature with his challenges. Like, Sean, you can't be this cavalier with challenges in the NFC Championship game. This isn't week 4 against the Cardinals. You're in the NFC Championship game, in a tie game, or you're down 3. Like, what the fuck are you doing? But, you know, the victors, you know, write the history books, right? No one cares. Like, I can't even pretend to care. It just does not matter. Now, if it bites them in the Super Bowl, then I would revisit this. But if it doesn't, no one's going to give a shit. If Sean McVay's hosting the Lombardi Trophy, that he blew some challenges. But until Kyle can get over the hump, people are going to talk about, like, what happens to him in some of these tight games. It's part of the deal. It's just the way it works. Andy fought it forever with his clock management until he won a Super Bowl. And now even a game like today, like he loses, devastating loss. Terrible loss. Chiefs shit the bed. But he's won a Super Bowl. If he hadn't, that loss would be 50 times worse. And that loss was bad. But when you're Super Bowl champ, like, it's harder for stuff to stick to you. But when you're not, like Kyle and Sean, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on Sean to win the Super Bowl, and we'll have time to get into the Super Bowl, but you know, it just does not matter. It truly doesn't. You know, no one cares. If you're talking about it, you're just wasting your energy, especially if it doesn't come back to bite them. But what a day. Football season, one more game. Kind of makes me sad just saying that out loud, actually. Actually makes me really... One more football game? I might need to go emotionally eat at 10:20 at night. But I have no food in my fridge, so I probably need to go to the store first. Adios. See you guys tomorrow. Subscribe to the pod. Share it with your friends. Peace. Thanks for watching 3 and Out. You can check out the podcast below in the description. And make sure you subscribe right now to the Volumes YouTube channel.